Welcome to Basic Teaching Skills for English Language Instruction, Essential Skills for English Teaching Volunteers. This short video will introduce key skills teachers can develop to help students as they learn English. Your students will likely come from diverse backgrounds with a variety of life experiences. No matter their history, you have the opportunity to help them along their journey. Today we'll be going over 6 essential skills for teachers to develop which will aid their students' English language development. We will cover them as follows: being patient, building student trust and confidence, listening, asking questions, simplifying, and being creative. The first and one of the most essential skills every teacher needs is patience. That patience is not just for your student, but for you as well. Like your students are learning and developing new skills through your class sessions, you are learning and developing new teaching skills. Both will take time, and everyone learns at different paces. Give yourself and your students time to build those new neural pathways. Patience is not complacency though. Patience is encouragement. It motivates us to believe in ourselves and to continue pressing forward despite our obstacles. Patience also involves giving your students time to respond to questions before moving on. As English is not their first language, it will likely take longer for new English learners to process the question, develop a response, and verbalize their answer. The second essential skill every teacher needs is the ability to build trust with their students. Refugees come from diverse and often difficult backgrounds. Our classes need to be safe spaces for student learning. Teachers can do this in a variety of ways, but doing the basics is key. Things like being on time, being prepared, having a smile, being their friend, and other simple things can go a long way to build trust with your students. Additionally, teachers can and should foster friendly relationships within the class. This can be done with group or partner practices, games, small group work, and more. Friendly relationships will contribute to a healthy, safe environment for students to practice their English without fear of making mistakes. The third essential skill every teacher needs is active listening. Sometimes as teachers, we become slaves to the lesson plan. While lesson plans are important, each class and student will move at different paces. We must find a balance of helping the students get a clear understanding and moving through essential material. We can determine if we are moving at the right pace by watching and listening to our students. Given their limited English ability, students will often say more with their body language and facial expressions than with their words. Pay attention to your students as you teach. Watch for questioning looks and furrowed brows, which may indicate you need to explain the concept again. The fourth essential skill every teacher needs to develop is the ability to ask good questions. Like listening, asking questions to gauge student comprehension is key to determining your class pace. Remember that the focus is on the student, not just on the material being covered. To determine if you are moving at a good speed for your students, avoid asking simple yes or no questions like, "Do you understand?" or "Did that make sense?" Instead, ask questions or give practices that reflect on the concepts. For instance, please make a sentence using the word house, or where did Khalid go to the grocery store? These types of questions will help you gauge your students' understanding in greater depth than yes or no questions. Additionally, give your students time to think through their responses. Learning a new language is difficult and may take a minute for the student to think through how to respond. The fifth essential skill every teacher needs to develop is the ability to simplify. Learning a new language is an incredibly difficult task, but we can make it easier. Lack of preparation on the teacher's end is one of the greatest barriers to student language progression. Often materials are too long or too complicated because it takes time to streamline and simplify. Putting in the work beforehand to plan and prepare activities can make our lessons more accessible to students, which will lead to better results in the long run. When preparing lessons, put yourself in the student's place. Think through the process that they must go through to access and understand the lesson. Learning materials that are congested and busy will be difficult for most to understand. Instead, use lots of white space and large fonts to make learning materials easier Use as simple of language as possible and use graphics to convey meaning. Simplify everything you can without losing meaning and clarity. Doing this will greatly increase the accessibility of the materials for your students. The sixth essential skill every teacher needs to develop is creativity. Simplicity does not mean that lessons need to be boring. Lessons can and should be fun. Some of your students will likely have little formal education, so bringing in real objects or going to real locations to practice may be beneficial. Games can also be an effective tool for reinforcing lessons. Frankly, don't be afraid to fail. Some of your activities may be unsuccessful, but that gives you the opportunity to pivot and to try something else. Regardless of what you do, always keep in mind your purpose. We've gone over 6 basic but essential skills to help you be successful in teaching English: being patient, building student trust and confidence, listening, asking questions, simplifying, and being creative. Regardless of the age group or demographic, these skills will help you further students' progression. Remember that this is not a complete list, but is a base for you to start building upon. As you read and study and watch other videos, you'll learn further skills to develop your teaching abilities. Happy teaching!